and some cut up cucumbers and kittens. I'm not eating them. Don't come for me. Some Diet Coke. And it sounds kind of weird, but I put some malt. One of the kittens is crawling on my leg. I put some malt vinegar on the pasta and the cucumbers. Hello, kitty. One of them is biting my toe. So you guys, yesterday, as far as Weight Watchers points goes, I already recorded it. I can't remember, but I'll put it on the screen. So yesterday I had my first appointment with my diabetic endocrinologist to touch base because I moved from Texas at the end of August, and a couple weeks before that I had my last post-op appointment for my thyroidectomy, and I had radioactive iodine therapy, and then I had the full body scan where they checked to see where the radioactive iodine went, and they did blood work, but I have not been seen since then. And I was curious about the whole diabetes thing because I've talked about before how I was diagnosed with diabetes at the same time that I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and the diabetes kind of fell to the wayside. It sounds terrible because diabetes is serious, but I wasn't to the point where I was so bad off that I was on insulin or anything, and that is not an excuse because that could quickly happen. But I just basically took my metformin like my primary care doctor suggested, and then she left the practice, and I never made it to another appointment with a new one out there because I had so many appointments going on with my thyroid. So anyway, alright, I don't think it's so bad that it's gonna mess anything up too much anyway. So first of all, I was a little disappointed because I weighed 2 pounds heavier yesterday on their scale than I had a couple weeks ago at my primary care doctor's scale. But to be honest, I'm having women's stuff right now, and I could have tracked a little bit better this past week. You know, I dug into the Halloween candy a little bit too much, and obviously I didn't burn off enough calories to cover it. But it matched exactly what my scale said at home before I left, which means that I finally found a spot in this house full of uneven floors where the scale is accurate. So at least there's that. She told me that she thinks that honestly honestly, as long as my A1C was not terrible, because she had seen that it had, the last time I had had my A1C done, it had gone, kittens, stop it, it had gone down like a couple points, so she said as long as it hadn't shot back up a lot, and that it went down again when she did the blood work, that she really didn't think I'd probably need to personally see her again, because she specialized in diabetes and the thyroid. She said that she thinks that just taking my metformin twice a day instead of just once a day and continuing to lose weight, and basically what my primary care doctor said, that if I get below a certain weight, it's not something I'm gonna need to worry about anymore. Her big concern was my thyroid cancer stuff. She wants me to go to a specialist that specifically, specializes in cancer stuff, because she said that even though they called what I had, a kitten just clawed my finger, stage 1 papillary thyroid cancer, she said that oftentimes they just name it stage 1, like depending on your age and stuff, and that it could be a little bit more severe than they think. So, and she said I'm high risk because they did a total thyroidectomy, and they had to take out so many lymph nodes and some neck muscle tissue, I guess. So basically, she's like, she didn't have all of my records in front of her. She had to request some, like my radioactive iodine stuff in the scan that happened after. So she wants me to be seen and like have an ultrasound and just touch base with this expert, because this stuff can grow back in tissue that's left over, or it can spread to other places. Honestly, I'm hoping that she's just being super duper overly cautious, and that I'm gonna be just fine. So there's that. And I really think that with the new, we talked less about diabetes and more about cancer, but she said that, I could, as long as I'm losing weight, and trying to control my blood sugar, I could basically do any type of eating plan I want. She said I could stick to what I'm doing, or I could do low carb or keto, like whatever. She said that she has patients that have been successful on all of them. So I am going to, for now, stick to what I'm doing, because I want to try Weight Watchers in a couple of days. They have their new plan rolling out, and part of it is going to be helpful to diabetics, so I want to give that a try, and stick to that as long as I'm losing weight. And I got the blood work back, and my A1C is actually down again. It's down a couple more points, so that's awesome. That's really nice, because the month of August and September was so chaotic that I have not lost as much weight as I wanted since my last A1C that I did. My kidney function it's not any worse than it was. It's not better yet, but it's not any worse than it was. And everything else was in standard range, so that's good. But here's the funny, kind of embarrassing embarrassing, I kind of feel bad part of the story. So, let me get a drink here. So my husband drove me, right? I don't talk about this a lot because it's embarrassing because I'm 41, but I've mentioned it once or twice, but I do not drive. And that's, probably normal for someone that lives in the city or something. I've never lived in the city. I just have like an immense fear of driving. I took driver's ed when I was in high school. Like, I was the very first person in the class to drive. I did fine. I did perfectly fine driving. Passed the permit test, got the permit. First time I went to drive with my mom, like, I had like just a panic flip out, and I've not driven since. And I'm not blaming my mom. Okay. I'm not blaming my mom. So I don't drive. And yes, it's a big pain in the butt, but it is just something that I don't see myself getting over. So, getting that out of the way. My husband drove me to this appointment. This appointment was in Omaha, which is like an hour and 20-ish minutes away from where we live. The appointment was, I had to be there by 1:05. It was scheduled to start at 1:20, and we knew it was going to be about 40 minutes. Now, my husband works nights, and he's normally in bed by 3 p.m. at the latest, and he has to get up around 11:15 at night. So, it was already kind of pushing it a little bit that he'd be going to bed a little bit later than usual. With an appointment starting at 1:20, being 40 minutes long. And then we had also planned on going to a nearby mall's food court to grab some of the really good Japanese food there afterwards, really quick. It was going to be like a treat. And then we were going to go home, and that was going to be like an hour drive, hour and 20 minutes. So she sent me for blood work. Kitty, stop it. She sent me for blood work. It was in the same building, but, well, let me just say that, in Texas, I had a lot of blood work done. But I was super fortunate because after I would check in, I never had to wait more than 10 minutes, ever, for the blood work. I've had to wait longer than that. Obviously, sitting in the doctor's office, in the little room that they put you in after your vitals, after they take your vitals, like, I've waited in those rooms for really long times before, but I've never had to wait super long to have blood taken. So they sent me to the lab. I checked in. There was 2 ladies at the front desk of the lab. They both looked a lot alike. I went to the lady on the left, and I checked in, and she said, "All right, you're all set. They'll call you in a little bit." So I went to sit down, and there was a lot of people in there, so I figured it would maybe be a little bit more than the 10-minute normal wait that I had. So my husband, we had told my son that we'd bring him home a Domino's pizza. So, and there was one really close to the hospital, so my husband ordered it online because he had service in there and I didn't. And then he left to pick it up. He was gone for like more than half an hour. And during that time, I kept seeing people come in and out, and they were not calling my name. And at one point, right before my husband came back, this older gentleman who had been like happily chit-chatting with another woman like just 10 minutes before that, he started to get agitated, and he when someone came out to call someone's name, he got their attention, and he kind of angrily, kind of loudly wondered why they hadn't called his name yet, and why people that came much later than him were being called in and he wasn't. It turns out that they had called his name and he had missed it, but he was still agitated when he went in. Like they went in after he said something, and then they came right back out and said, okay, we're ready for you now. And he's like, finally. And I kind of chuckled, but I started to think about it because I was seeing people that had literally been there like 10 minutes being called in, and I had been there for about 40 minutes at that point. So I was like, am I stupid too? Did they call my name and I didn't hear it, even though I'm sitting right here? Kitty, stop it. So a few minutes later, my husband comes back and he's like, you haven't even gone in yet? And I'm like, no. So we waited a few more minutes, and I'm like, if they don't call my name next, I'm gonna go talk to the girl up there that comes out next. So they didn't call my name. So I got the attention of the next girl that came out, and I said, hey, you didn't happen to call my name and I missed it, did you? And she asked my name, and then she went to check, and she's like, what's your name again? And I told her, and she's like, there's no one on the list with that name. And I'm like, I checked in over 40 minutes ago. And she's like, no, there's no one with your name. And I'm like, but I checked in 40 minutes ago. She's like, no. Like, she wasn't like arguing with me or mocking me, but like we were kind of having like a weird awkward banter where like she could tell that I was getting a little upset or like agitated or flustered, and she didn't know what to say. And at this point, there was only one girl checking in people at the lab, and I could not remember if that was the one that checked me in or not. And I was like, but I checked in with one of the ladies like 40 minutes ago. And she's like, well, it's not reflecting that you checked in. You're gonna have to go talk to that lady over there. Well, the lady had gotten up from the desk, and as she was walking over, I tried to get her attention, but she was like, you're gonna have to get to the back of the line and then I'll check. So let me just say, I am far from a Karen. I do not ever cause a scene. I'm like normally extremely patient. You know, I've worked in retail before. I've dealt with, you know, jerky customers. You know, I'm normally really patient. I'm not confrontational. But I was really agitated when she was like, you're gonna have to get to the back of the line and then I'll check. There was like 5 people in line, and I'm like thinking, I've already been here for 40 minutes. Are you going to check me? Are you gonna check and tell me I'm not checked in, then check me in and tell me it's gonna be another 25 minutes? I didn't say that. I was thinking it. I started to go to the back of the line, but the people that were in line could see that I was like kind of losing it a little bit, so they let me go ahead. And the lady's like, oh, yeah, so-and-so started to check you in, but I guess they forgot to hit enter. And I'm just like, And she's like, oh, but I've got you all checked in now, so you're all set. And I'm like, and I said to her, I'm like, okay, but do I still have to wait like another 25 minutes? Because I've been here like almost an hour now. Because she had been telling people that it's a 25-minute wait. And she's like, well, I really can't tell you that. You might. But I'll put a note that you've been here for quite a while. Like, I was like just so frustrated because if I had been by myself, it wouldn't have been as big a deal, but like it was already like just about 3, and my husband is normally in bed by then, and I hadn't even had my blood work taken yet, and it was gonna be like an hour and 20 something minutes home, and we were starving, and we knew at this point getting food at the mall was out. So I was kind of making passive aggressive comments under my breath, and I never do things like that. And I sat down super annoyed, and my husband looked at me and he's like, did I hear that right? That other lady forgot to hit enter. Like, that's part of her job, and she forgot to hit enter. And I'm like, yeah, I was probably like her last person before she went on break or left for the day or something. And my husband said something like really rude and like inappropriate out of anger, and I just looked at him like, don't say that. And then they called me in like 2 minutes later, thank God. And you know, they were really friendly when they took my blood, and I did feel bad for not being more patient after that. And even though like the girl at the counter had given me attitude a little bit, I almost stopped by the counter and like apologized for it, you know. I wasn't like super rude or like a mega Karen or anything like that, but I still felt bad that like I wasn't like perfectly pleasant in every way. I almost apologized, but I'm like, God, we gotta get out of here. And I didn't want to like cause any more weird scenes, and there was like a lot of people in line trying to deal with her, so. And then like there's like a stoplight every like 3 minutes, and traffic on the way home, so my husband didn't even get to bed until almost 6, so I felt really bad. I don't know, I feel like other people would be annoyed in that situation too. But I'm sure if the girl who had not fully finished checking me in had been there when we figured it out, she would have apologized profusely, and I wouldn't have like kind of had a little meltdown. I think it was a combination of having waited so long, feeling bad that it was going to take us forever to get home, and that poor girl that was like came out to call someone else's name was like just kind of jokingly acting like she had no idea what I was talking about because my name wasn't on the list. And then, you know, the girl at the check-in was like, I don't know, but that's not how I normally act. I'm normally really a super laid-back, whatever type of person when it comes to stuff like that. But at least my blood work was good, and hopefully next week when I step on the scale at my house, I'm down those 2 pounds plus 1, so I don't know. I just spilled my drink on my shirt. It is what it is. Oh, no. Also, this is kind of funny too, like, as I was checking out from the actual endocrinologist appointment, and I had to make the appointment with the cancer lady, my husband was like, hey, just make sure it's not on a Tuesday or a Thursday, because those are days where he needs like the maximum amount of sleep, because those are nights where they have to do extra work and stay later. And he said that, and then he went and sat in the waiting room. The lady was having problems with the computer and pulling up the scheduling system when he was saying that, and then he left. And then she finally got it up, and she's like, okay, she has an opening on Thursday, such and such. And I'm like, do you have anything on a Wednesday or a Monday or a Friday? And she's like, nope, it looks like she only has openings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I was like, okay. But other than my husband's little, not outburst, but, well, kind of outburst, I guess, at the lab, he didn't complain too much, so that was nice, because I already felt bad, but anyway, I've lost my train of thought. Betty Botter bought some butter. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Betty Botter bought some butter. I think it had something to do with her batter. Her batter was bitter.